something odd about opening up OBS after I turn this on. And it causes it. And
hello and welcome to World Sand Project. I'm the magical sand princess and life coach to the rich and famous, Shelley Carney.
MSP. So you're MSP. And I'm Administrative Assistant to the MSP and your host for today's show. We have a great show for you with another sample from the East Coast, Florida in this case, Pompano Beach. It's pretty good looking. No forams. There's something interesting about that whole foram thing. We're going to talk about that. Stay with us. We had a lot going on. Great pictures. I did burn out one of my microscope cameras, so we're going to have to make the switch. And when I do, it's going to make you dizzy, so close your eyes. So I do want to thank two of the subreddits on Reddit, the /geology group and the /rockhounds group, who have been very supportive over the past couple of weeks with our posts and helping us to promote the channel and leaving great comments and asking great questions. So I wanted to say thank you for that. It has been very helpful. We've added several subscribers to our channel as a result. The other note that I wanted to make was there is a relatively new International Sand Collectors Society page on Facebook, and they've just gotten it started. They had been using the more archaic forums and things like that, but just decided to move over to Facebook. I just joined it today, and I haven't even gotten approved yet. But I strongly recommend that if you have any interest in sand collection or just seeing some of the imagery that these guys who are dedicated sand collectors produce, join the International Sand Collectors Society on Facebook. They have a new Facebook page. So, and then last but not least, I would like to share. I mentioned this last week, but I'm going to keep mentioning it because I've been using it a little bit, and it's a really neat product. And it's not just for the sand collectors, although I'm going to treat it that way. And Mike Hempfling, who is the developer of the product, actually put an automatically made folder for World Sand Project on there for me. But you can create any folder. And I think based on what I've seen so far, let me show you the Amazon version. You can download it from Google Play, iTunes, the App Store and Apple App Store. Or you can get it from Amazon, and I think he's got the pages reversed. So it's called Pocket Field Notes, and everything is a project, and everything in that you create a project-based folder. And once you've identified the project, it automatically populates latitude, longitude, altitude, date, and time, and then you can start making notes. And I made a long note on one of my tests, and it doesn't seem to have a problem with making notes on it. You can then go back and edit the note. You can add pictures to the folder. Of course, you can delete it, and then you can email the entire folder, and you can choose the email. Now, the one in the World Sand Project automatically goes to World Sand Project. So if you are collecting a sample of sand for World Sand Project, you can use this tool to collect the associated information with it. And then if you ever want it, I or anyone else, once I get that folder, can click on the map and see the exact location in Google Maps. So you can have project folders, tree projects, bird spotting projects, world sand projects for you geologists and field geologists and rockhounds. It would be perfect for you guys documenting your collections, your sample collections. That's the basic projects note folder. And that's the main cover, and that's what the project note looks like. So it's a very, I spoke with Mike and we talked about the idea. He had developed a project or a product similar to this for the Fen treasure search community. And I thought it couldn't be, you couldn't, have to go too far in order to develop this product. And he did a great job and he did it in less than 2 weeks. So it does cost $1.99 for the full-fledged version. And although I've run a couple of tests locally here, just kind of going out, there's a couple of arroyos. I'm down by the Rio Grande. I took my bike ride down there the other day. So I played around it then, but I'm going to Las Vegas this weekend. And my plan is to visit a couple of locations within 16 to 20 miles of the center of Las Vegas, the hotel I'll be staying at, and do some sand collection. I'm going to use this tool to document it. And I'll record that while I'm doing the documentation. And then I'll make a video about it when I get back into town. So Mike did a great job on the project. I'm really excited about it. Can you tell? Mm-hmm. I guess you can't tell. Yeah. Okay, so let's get to our project today. I'm going to close some of these windows so we don't take up, not that I don't have enough space here. And I also need to start that. So just give me 1 second. Okay.
All right.
So what's
Happy
going
Valentine's Day, everybody.
What's going on besides Valentine's Day? Did you get anything for Valentine's Day?
Yeah, look at this.
What is that?
Ta-da!
A little Valentine's. What is it? Is it a fox?
Looks like a fox.
Yeah.
It's either that or a cat, but I don't think it's a cat.
No, it's not a cat.
It's a fox.
Yeah, it's a fox.
Because it's
foxy
pink.
Fox.
A
Yeah.
pink fox.
Pink fox with a little heart on it.
The big,
A little heart on it.
big eyes. And candy.
Got some Ghirardelli candies.
And
Yeah,
there's some
heart-shaped
roses
candies.
in the other room.
Yeah.
I didn't bring those in. But let's see. It's dark chocolate. Let's open that up.
Yummy.
Yeah.
One of them has caramel and the other has salt, I think, or something.
I think this one has both.
Oh, okay.
Salt,
All right,
caramel.
so let's get on with the show
Sea
here.
salt caramel. Oh,
nice.
pretty.
Oh, that's
Little
cute.
hearts.
Dark chocolate, no less. So let's go over to the window shot and take a look at some of the pictures that we've already... Oh, I started to say I burned out. So this is one of the microscope cameras. This is the one that's the 41 megapixel version. And I had this on the polarizing camera. So, but something happened today. I get a sense it cooked itself, but... and it's not that old. It's only a couple of months old, so I'll send it back to the manufacturer and get another one. But in order to show you both the stereo microscope and the polarizing microscope, I'm going to have to...
Talk to Siri about
what
it.
did I talk to Siri about it? Okay, sorry, Siri. Didn't mean to interrupt you. Go back to sleep. So, what sounds like Siri there?
Oh,
All right.
she just likes
So
to talk to you.
I'm going to have to swap cameras between the stereo microscope and the polarizing microscope once we get started here. Okay, so the location that we're talking about is on the east coast of Florida. Still, here's the continental shelf, the Gulf of Mexico. The deep continental shelf starts after the Bahamas, and then, of course, it gets progressively deeper as it goes out to sea. Cuba, Haiti. It's down in the southern, what I call the southern part of Florida, and it's just this particular location, I think, is a couple of miles below where my daughter, son-in-law, and granddaughter live, maybe Everly. And so I get a chance to go out there every once in a while when I go visit. Great places to collect sand. You can also see here the Keys, starting with Key Largo all the way out to Key West. And if you've never taken out a drive, if you have a long weekend and it doesn't happen to coincide with other traditionally long weekends, it's a free weekend sometime in, I don't know, November before Thanksgiving, take that drive. It's just beautiful. And I get a sense as the sea continues to rise, I don't know how much longer it's going to last there. So there's Delray Beach, which we've already done a sample from. And there's Port St. Lucie, which we've already done a sample from. This is a really interesting area. I love going to visit my daughter there because the Everglades National Park is here. The Everglades Wildlife Area is here. The Big Cypress National Preserve. This is Lake Okeechobee. So there's a lot of natural attractions in this area. So it's always fun to go visit for me when I go in that direction. There is a pier at the beach, Pompano Beach, and it's really long, and it's made of wood, but it looks like it's brand new to the area. So let's take a look at the sample real quick. Some of the photos. That's the sample bottle, the sample crucible. That's a quartz crucible, and that's what we're going to be looking at under the stereo microscope. And of course, I use the Petri dish to look under the polarizing microscope because you need a thin layer of sand to get the full effect. Again, there's our sample bottle. We have now filled up with all our samples. This will fill up a 36 section plastic box full of samples. Now it's only 25 samples, but in some of our sample cases we've had more than one sample bottle where we've collected additional material that were, say, larger than sand grain size, but they were just too beautiful to throw away. And in the most recent sample, although that's eventually going to end up in our treasure chest, we got those sapphires that Mike Healy sent to us from around Phillipsburg, Montana. So that created quite a stir.
Yeah.
Did you see it in the?
No, you're telling me about it.
In the geology group, because I wasn't clear that they were actually collected in two different locations, and people were going, no, that's not going to happen in Montana. There is no way. I mean, they knew where that stuff was from. It's like, and then gave me the reference to the guy.
One.
Yeah, I got one little piece of magnetite. That was it. Now, some of the smaller sand grains did get stuck in the plastic around the magnet, but that's pretty much the only piece it collected. And I'm not even sure. I couldn't pull it off the magnet enough to see what it was. The sample looks a lot like the other samples that we get from the Florida coast, although this one seems to be more dense than some of the others with quartz. And that quartz, of course, comes primarily from the Appalachian Mountains down into the Atlantic Ocean and then swept southward along the coast. But there is, I wouldn't say quite an equal number of biogenetics, the calcium carbonates that are produced by sea creatures that break off for whatever reason, shells for whatever reason, and end up being washed onto the shore in the same way. But it's a very natural one. It doesn't look like there's been anything added to it. It's all very natural colors. Some of these darker colors, I wonder, as you look at them close, they do look like rocks. And what I mean by that is if you were to pick up a rock. I don't have anything but the polished stuff here. So let me see if I got something that is not too polished. All right. So if you look, this one happens to be polished. Tony Henman, our friend, polished this for us. If you look at this rock, let me go back to the screen. So if you look at this rock, you'll see that it consists of a broad variety of minerals, and then it's encased in some sort of substrate. In this case, it looks like it was a sandstone at some point, but it incorporates all these other minerals, and that's what makes up a rock. A rock is made up of minerals. So in some cases, in our shots, I think some of the darker colors, I'm not quite convinced that sea creatures can produce the darker colors. They tend to produce the lighter colors, the tans and the whites. So I'm guessing those could be rocks that came in the same route in the through the Appalachians, or they could be from seafloor basalt. But I haven't quite figured that out. So you can see the dominance of quartz, and here's what I was talking about. That one right there looks more like a rock than it does, say, this right here, which is very obviously the calcium carbonate. That's the material that sea creatures use to produce their shells. I'm going to scroll through these real quickly. Now, this is the photo that I posted to the cover. Because I thought this showed the most variety. As you can see, here's that dark blue rock color. These lighter colors tend to be those produced by sea creatures, the biogenics, and then of course there's lots of quartz crystals that are a little bit smooth, not perfectly smooth. But anytime you see indentations or lines, anything like that, they're obviously produced by sea creatures. On the other hand, you look at this piece right here, and it's got a lot of activity in it, a lot of what looks like organic work on it. So like I said, I still haven't figured out whether it's actually calcium carbonate with coloration of some kind. I'm not sure how the sea creatures do that. What's the matter?
Sound like you were getting texts.
Oh.
I was getting distracted.
I am.
Oh.
First place Regional History Day, Phoenix. Goes on to states now.
Phoenix.
Phoenix, my Phoenix,
Not
my
Griffin?
Phoenix. No, Griffin is in the. Well, I don't know.
I thought he was the one that did the
Wait a
report
minute,
on you.
Wait a minute. Hang on, better carry. We got an update from one of the. No, it's Fee.
For history?
Yeah. So again, these tend to be produced by sea creatures. But then there's, like you can see, a whole bunch of quartz. And as I've said in the past, the quartz is there because it's the hardest of all the material that come out of the mountains. So it's more likely to survive the trip down from the mountains and into the ocean. So you're looking at that guy right there.
Yeah.
That looks like yeah. So
is that?
anytime you see something that kind of looks organic, like that's not a rock, obviously. It's just doesn't rocks don't do that. So
Petrified piece of fish or something.
it could be petrified, or it could have been a shell that once held a sea creature, of some kind. So what you don't see on this coast, although this one kind of looks like it right down here, are a lot of forams. We seem to see all the forams on the west coast. I mean, not all of them, but a predominance. They're in the population. We don't often see them as often down here. That was the only one that I registered that seemed foram-like. And the difference in the forams is they have a lot more of the little holes because that's where their foramy little legs come out, and they're not polished like these. They're also calcium carbonate, but they don't seem to polish up with a shine. They're very flat and always kind of white. Okay, so I'm going to run through these because I want to get to the microscope to see what we can find there. But a nice variety, in the sample, but dominated by primarily quartz, and then the calcium carbonates with all kinds of things happening in the calcium carbonates like you see there. So, but this one, like this one right here, it's shiny like a calcium carbonate. The color looks more like a rock, but then it has the holes. So it could just have been, somebody in the Reddit group said, "Hey, did you tumble these?" And I said, I had to reply, of course, no, I didn't.
Tumbled them.
Yeah, the water,
The ocean.
basically the ocean tumbled them themselves, because you have to remember these are the size of a sand grain, and that doesn't register like that until you start looking them at a microscope, and then suddenly they look like little tiny diamonds. That's the funny part about all this. Every time you see something that has this kind of color, you want to take it out, grind it, polish it, and set facets in it. Of course, then you realize it's what you call it, a small little sand grain size. So this is the area that we're looking at around Pompano Beach, and it's constructed pretty much like all the other areas in along the coast of Florida. This is the A1A, which is the main thoroughfare right here. Main thoroughfare along the beach. You'll always see these canals in here. They're continuations of the ICW, which anybody who's sailed down that area will be familiar with. There's the pier. When we take the little guy up, he grows fins as usual. And he grows...
She?
Is she? I don't know. Is there such a thing as a...
Merman?
Merman.
There's not really such a thing as a mermaid.
Let me put it down so I can point it out. So what you'll see are areas where there are images associated with it, but this line is the Google vehicle. So that means you can drive on the beach along the Google vehicle, and you'll get that shot here. So let's kind of plant ourselves here and see if we can get to the pier. You got some water sounds for me?
That's right.
Seagull in the shots.
That's
So
interesting.
there's our pier.
Caught right in the midair.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? And this is the car driving by. So there are tracks there. So they do allow vehicles. There are some beaches in Florida, including Daytona and a couple of others, that you can drive vehicles on, and you can park and camp. I guess they all must agree to allow the Google vehicle to go on, because it's in their best interest to have these kinds of panoramic shots on their beaches. So good-looking beach. Hotels, nice, lot of space for visitors to hit the beach, and a nice sample that was collected for. By the way, it was our friend Tony Henman that collected this sample for us. So
Oh,
I guess he was out there.
he's the one that gave me this necklace.
That's right. Tony gave the MTP MSP that beautiful heart-shaped necklace, a pink topaz. It's got good taste, doesn't it? So good looking there at Pompano. And so we're going to take our little guy. I thought there was a really good shot from right around here someplace on the pier.
On the pier. Yeah, there's two of them on the pier.
Let's
one
go
further
this
out,
one here.
one closer in.
That one. There we go.
Oh,
Oops,
that's
under the pier.
It's that same couple.
Oh, that must still be from the Google shot. Let's see. Let me grab one that seems like, I think this is the one right here that I thought was right on the pier. Yeah. So I guess a nice little, and we're back.
Oh, we're back?
Yeah, I think.
I'm just having a snack.
So if you're snacking, this would be a good time to put it all away. So, so I didn't, can you tell on your?
We're back.
Okay.
According to my watch.
All right, guys. So we apologize for that. We don't know what happened. It might have been a combination. I don't think it was YouTube. I think it was OBS that time. So let's switch over to the window shot. Let us know if you can see us, because on this side, all we could see is that it was locked up. Let me see. It's going to go to live,
It's live.
But it's going to be a separate stream. So, and we don't have time to start all over again. So, for those of you that stayed with us, thank you very much for that. We don't know exactly what happened. It looked like OBS froze up on us, and then YouTube froze up, so we had to restart. So that means we're going to have two separate streams. So I'm going to suggest, if you need to see what we're about to do here, go back to the earlier stream and then come back to this one. I don't know that YouTube will be smart enough to put them both together.
Before,
so they haven't before, right?
No,
they always make two streams out of it.
pieces.
So again, we apologize for that. So let's take a look at our sample here. And like I said, first we're going to look at it under the stereo microscope. So excuse me as I scramble back here. It's a good looking.
Says sand must have gotten the stream.
Yeah, it could very well be. It can happen. It gets in your underwear when you go out to the beach. So, and I have a bunch of it right here. So it did. So let's zoom in on the crucible, the quartz crucible, to see what we've got in the way of a sample here. We'll take a closer look at it. So you'll see that the quartz crystals have been very nicely smoothed out and refined, the implication being that they've had a long road to travel from the Appalachians through the rivers and then down the mountains. And then you see these are the calcium carbonates. Anytime you see a little bit of color, generally speaking, you can consider them calcium carbonates. And that means they were produced by sea creatures. And you can see the indentations, and also you see the holes in them, because as the sea creatures are developing them, there's little tiny microscopic worms that make homes in them as well. And that's where those little holes that you see there and trails are made. But again, then you see one of these dark colors. And I'm going to put these two together because this was intriguing to me a while ago when I was first putting the sample on the microscope. So that the lighter blue of the two looks more like a rock to me, while the darker blue of the two, because of the little holes and all that, and the way they're smoothed out, the little worm tracks, they look to me like, that looks to me like calcium carbonate, but I don't know what animal or what sea creature produced the darker colors. On the other hand, you go to this one, which is red, and that very definitely looks like calcium carbonate, and it's got that bright red color. So I don't know enough about it to know why it produces those colors like that. I did find some of the quartz crystals interesting, because as I thought these were quartz crystals, I realized no, they're not. They're clear calcium carbonate, and if you look into them, they have some organic material buried inside of them. So however they separated themselves from whatever sea creature created them, it took some of the organic material with it. So this, on the other hand, that's definitely a quartz crystal, and it's infused or included with some other darker material, which could be, just in the case of quartz, it could just be another mineral, that produces magnesium, cobalt. There's all the blue minerals that can be infused into the quartz or included into included in, not included like added, but included as inclusion. So lots of quartz. Were you going to say something?
Nope.
You're looking at me like you were going to say something.
Nope.
So didn't see any forams. These to me don't, these again look like the calcium carbonates, but they don't have the little holes and they're polished. And I have yet to see any of the forams that are polished. They tend to be white and very flat in color. So a lot of good looking material as usual. I will go back afterwards and get some of these additional shots that aren't in the album already.
Pretty blue.
So does that blue one to you look like, it's hard to tell, right? It looks more like a rock than it does.
Well, it's got
the
different
little tiny
colors
holes.
of blue.
Yeah. So it's just interesting that it could produce so many, wow, why is that out of? It can produce so many different colors, meaning it has different minerals. The colors come from different minerals. So how would a biogenetic produce that? You know, how would an organism produce the different colors? If or why would they produce it?
Fishman.
Now the other possibility is that some of this can be coral broken off, and coral can change colors as a result of the bacteria that grow on it. That's why the parrotfish eat the coral. I'm not going to say it.
Say what?
And what they do with it after they eat it.
Oh, I thought you probably wanted crackers.
Oh, no. So, pretty good looking sample, very East Coast in comparison to the West Coast, and very different from some of the mountain samples that we've seen recently. I have gotten a lot of support from, like I said, the geology and the rockhound groups in Reddit, and they're volunteering to send samples from literally all over Europe, Australia, China, along the shores in China. So there's 80,000 members of that group, and they've indicated an interest in it. So I'm looking forward to hearing from them about what samples they can provide. So one of the gentlemen from Australia said he was on a road trip, and he would collect a sample from every one of his stops. And he said that would that be okay, thinking, well, they'll all be the same. And what we've learned in the past is that literally you can collect a sample a mile apart on a beach in California, and they have two different personalities, completely different personalities. So before it gets too late, what I'm going to do, I'm going to come back to full frame so you guys don't get seasick while I change these cameras. So I'm going to move the camera from the stereo microscope over to the polarizing microscope.
So we're working with my daughter on creating some things that feature sand from a variety of different beaches. Things like using the sand photographs as a pattern to create like t-shirts and leggings and phone cases and a variety of things. So if that's something that you're interested in, be looking for that coming soon.
Yeah, we've sent her. I actually haven't sent them. I packaged up what I thought were the 5 best photos from the 25 samples that we've shown so far, and she sent us an example of a T-shirt, right? Mm-hmm. That was sand
all over.
It was sand all over, but but it was not one of our better samples.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, we deal with a lot of different samples, and they're all, I say, unique and beautiful in their own way. But there were some others that I think would show up better as she's producing these products of hers, and I think it's a great idea. So we're looking forward to working with her on that.
And if there's a specific thing you're looking for, like a coffee mug or a journal or something like that, let us know, and we'll make sure she's
aware of
that
it.
in her inventory.
Yeah. So this is under the polarizing microscope, and as of course, as usual, you can see that the quartz sand always does a great job of refracting back different frequencies of light based on the minerals in the quartz. As we get into the more denser stuff, it starts losing its ability to do that, and I'm not quite sure why it won't reflect back that way. I actually have to go to the edge of the sample so that the light does go through the sample and back again. It seems like when I've gone to the center of the sample where there's layers, and it doesn't take much to make a layer of sand, but when I move away from it, I lose this ability to produce these beautiful colors. And again, after the show this evening, after the series of shows this evening, I will make some additional photos of some of these prettier pieces. Let me scroll, see if I can scroll.
Or maybe Tuesday.
Oh, that's right. So what's happening is we are going to. I'm headed for Las Vegas for the weekend. For those of you who are familiar with our Gypsy's Kiss channel, I'm headed to Las Vegas for the World Series of Fin Poker tournament, and then on Sunday I've taken the day so that I can. I actually am flying. I'm not flying. I decided to drive, take my truck, and I'm going to go to a couple of locations in Las Vegas and do some sand sample collecting and test out the Pocket Field Notes app that Mike Hempfling produced for us. So this to me is where they get really, really, really pretty and kind of sexy in their own way. And it's the quartz that comes out the coolest.
Sexy
Although,
sand.
as I was looking through it, there were a couple of the calcium carbonates that reflected back some material. And as usual, I did take a picture of one of them, and I'll put that in the album because I know once I get back to here and try to share it with you guys, the simple fact of the matter is I'll never be able to find it again. So I took a picture of it when I saw it as I was getting set up today. Actually, just before I burned out my my other microscope camera. Literally have no idea what I did to accomplish that.
Maybe it was that bright light. Ah, there goes another one.
Well, what was weird is it would, as I turn it on, it would flash the image for just a second, and then it would go dark. So that tells me it's actually the sensor.
You sure it wasn't the lens cap?
No, because there is no such thing as a lens cap on these cameras. Right?
Really? Because I thought you had a problem with that before.
That wasn't the lens cap. That was a kind of protector they put on the inside of it. Then it wasn't working.
Same thing.
Okay, thank you for
Back to full
bringing
screen.
that up. Back to full screen. All right, guys. So, really good-looking sample from Pompano Beach, Broward County, Florida, USA. Hope you enjoyed it. World Sand Project sample number 25.
25.
And I did post a picture. Let's see if I can show you that picture. Hang on. So I got to go to. I'm almost hesitant to open up another Chrome window because that's when everything goes. Let's see. I did upload.
What makes the colors? Do you shine a light on the sand?
No. So what I'm doing is I'm using a polarizing microscope, and I keep promising you guys that I'm going to show you what they are one of these days. But what happens is there's a light that is reflected through a polarizer down through the lens. The light actually goes, the polarized light goes through the lens. And then before it goes up to the camera, there's an analyzer. And so the light is perfectly polarized. And so what you're seeing in the camera is the effect of shooting that light through the polarizer, back up through the analyzer, and into the camera. So if you're curious about this, I'm terrible at explaining it. It would be easier for me to show you this big camera. This big microscope. But if you look up polarized light microscopy on YouTube, it explains it in much better detail than I possibly can. But that's what produces the unique rainbow colors. So I thought I had uploaded that. I was going to show you the picture. Oh, I know where I can show you. Hang on. We're going to change here, but it's over. I did post it to Reddit. So give me 1 second and I'll show you the photograph of the collection that we have thus far. So let me go to geology, or was it, let's say it was rockhounds. And it was near the top. It was kind of hot.
And for those of you who are interested, we're going to be starting our Softer Side show at 4 o'clock. Our interview canceled for today, so we have a new topic. The topic is living a limitless life you love. So we're going to capitalize on the letter L. Today's show brought to you by the letter L.
By the letter L. So let me
tune
let me
in
do
for
this.
that.
So it had made it towards the top. Let me see if it's still there. There it is. So it's got 289 upvotes on Reddit, and this is a clay. I have plastic cases that fit the sample bottles
What's that green one?
perfectly. That's the Hawaii
Yeah.
green sand.
Interesting.
So this is the first case. We're about to fill this up. The World's Sand Project sample number 25 will go in there, and then I'll start a new case. But that's the variety of samples that we've had thus far. The reason we don't have 36 different samples is because occasionally we'll have a sample plus 2 additional bottles worth of material that really doesn't qualify as sand, but I hate throwing them away because there's some, just some beautiful work in there. So in this case right here, that's the sample from Costa Rica that our friend Carter sent us. And then there were some larger than sand grain size, and he also sent us some stones that some polished stones that he found on the beach. So I wanted to include it in the collection. So we're growing more and more samples, and I'm about to start my second box worth of our sample collection. So we're doing pretty well. We're also keeping a database of all these samples, all the information associated with it, including links to the photos, the maps, and the program. So once we get that where I'm comfortable with it, we'll make it available to you all. So that you can look at the database of samples before you go look for the samples. The numbers don't tell you enough. I happen to know that number 3 is Prince Edward Island, and that was sent to us by Doug Carver. But
That pure white one in the middle is actually white sands.
White sands, yeah,
Just
that right
gypsum. And
Yeah.
it's not very pretty under the microscope.
right there. So
Yeah.
that's white
It looks
sands
like salt or sugar, but
Yeah.
it's
It
not
looks-
very interesting under the microscope.
under the microscope. That one there is the one from the Green Glass Beach in Hawaii. And so we've got a lot of different samples. That's the one I talked about. That was the Prince Edward Island in Canada on the Atlantic seaboard. So we've had a lot of great samples. And like I said, so here's a bottle sample number 23. That's 23A and 23B because these didn't make it through the sieve, but they were, these, for example, were some of those shells, some of the calcium carbonates, and I didn't want to throw them away. So it's making for a nice collection. So if you ever, and we have photos of everything.
Sand is our friend.
Sand is our friend. All right, so and
Thanks for being here, everybody, and for putting up with all of our starts and stops. And all of our silliness and enjoying the sand with us. Happy Valentine's Day. We'll see you on the next show. And for World Sand Project, I'm the Magical Sand Princess and Life Coach to the rich and famous Shelley Carney.
She is indeed. And I'm your host and moderator, Toby Younis, and I really appreciate you tuning in to us. Remember that sand is a non-renewable natural resource, and behind air and water, it is one of the most consumed resources, and we're running out of sand. If you don't believe me, Google, why is the world running out of sand? And you'll find plenty of information. We have a couple of playlists related to it as well, and that's our objective here. We have a lot of fun showing the samples of sand that we get from our viewers, but there's a method to our madness, and that is to remind everybody that it's a non-renewable natural resource, and we're using it faster than the planet can replenish it. So thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it.